Hi everyone, welcome to Azad Revenge Stories channel. The presentation screen flickered to black right as I clicked to my final slide, the one with my results. 207% increase in conversions. The data that should have been my triumph, technical difficulties. Marcus announced to the room full of investors, his voice dripping with fake concern as he yanked the power cord from my laptop. Sorry folks. Seems like Eller's gotten a little ahead of herself with these numbers. Classic rookie mistake. 50 pairs of eyes stared at me, some confused, most embarrassed for me. A few, the veteran investors who'd seen this kind of sabotage before, narrowed with suspicion. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't even pretend to troubleshoot. Blood rushed to my face as Marcus placed his hand on my shoulder, squeezing just hard enough that only I could feel the threat. "Why don't you let the senior team take it from here?" he whispered, leaning close enough that I could smell his cologne. "Before you make everyone look stupid." I'm Ella Reeves, 32, from the marketing division. Nobody wanted to join until I transformed it. And I never, not once in my career, thought I'd be capable of what I did next. Before I go further, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I would love to hear from you because what happened to me happens to women everywhere every single day. And maybe my story will help you write your own ending. 6 months earlier, I'd been transferred to the dead-end division, what everyone called our company's struggling Philadelphia office. 28 salespeople who hadn't hit target in over 2 years. A client roster shrinking faster than a wool sweater in hot water. Everyone knew it was where careers went to die. My welcome email had 3 replies, all asking if I'd pissed someone off to get sent here. My new boss, Richard, spent our first meeting explaining why expectations were appropriately low and how I shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. His exact words, "Just keep the lights on until corporate decides what to do with this place." I watched him pop his third and tacit of our 30-minute meeting. The team was broken, not lazy, not incompetent, just beaten down. I'd share ideas in meetings and watch eyes glaze over. One guy, Tom, actually fell asleep once while I was presenting. I later found out he was working nights at his brother's restaurant just to make mortgage payments after 3 years without bonuses. But I saw something no one else did. Our products weren't the problem. Our people weren't the problem. Our approach was every client call followed the same desperate script. Every presentation used identical slides from 2017. Every strategy was what we've always done. And looming over everything was the quarterly investors meeting, the day when the 5 senior VPs from headquarters would fly in, look at our numbers, and decide whether to shut us down. I stayed late that first Friday, alone in the office, reading through every client file, every sales deck, every feedback form. By 2:00 a.m. I'd found the pattern. By Monday morning, I'd built something completely new. "This isn't the approved sales approach," Marcus said when I presented it at the Monday meeting. He was VP of sales based out of headquarters, but overseeing our division's slow death. He only showed up once a month, always in crisp suits that cost more than most of my team made in a week. "The approved approach isn't working," I said. "We're down 68% year over year. Sometimes markets just don't perform." He shrugged. "That's business. It's not the market, it's us. We're solving problems our clients don't have anymore." The room got quiet. I'd only been there a week. Who was I to challenge how things worked? "That's cute, Ella." Marcus smiled in that way men do when they are not taking you seriously. "But we need to stick to the program, right, Richard?" Richard, my direct boss, wouldn't meet my eyes. Just nodded and mumbled something about processes and consistency. I should have backed down, should have played the game, but I couldn't. Not when I saw how defeated everyone looked. "Give me 2 weeks," I said. "Let me try this with just my accounts. If it fails, I'll fall in line. If it works, we all benefit." Marcus laughed. "You've got moxie. I'll give you that." He agreed, not because he believed in me, but because he thought I'd fail. Nothing like watching the new girl crash and burn to reinforce the status quo. Those 2 weeks I barely slept. I rebuilt everything from how we identified client pain points to how we structured pricing. My approach was radically simple. actually listened to what customers needed instead of pushing what we wanted to sell. By day 10, I'd closed 2 deals that had been prospects for over a year. By day 14, I'd renewed a client everyone said was lost. When I presented the results at our team meeting, there was this moment of stunned silence. Then Tom, the same Tom who'd fallen asleep during my first presentation, said, "Show me how you did that." Not with suspicion, with hope. Over the next month, 5 team members asked to try my method, then 10, then all 28. Richard was cautiously supportive, though I could tell he was worried about rocking the boat with headquarters. Our numbers started climbing, not just a little dramatically. Clients who hadn't returned calls in months were signing new contracts. The office had energy again. People stopped bringing in job listings to share at lunch. That's when the whisper started, not from my team, but from the other divisions, the golden children who'd always hit their targets, who got the best leads, the biggest budgets. She's gaming the system. She's poaching clients from other territories. Those numbers can't be real. Marcus started showing up weekly instead of monthly, sitting in on my calls, questioning my reports, asking for verification of every sale. He'd send emails at 10 p.m., asking for documentation by 7:00 a.m. "I'm just doing my job," I told Richard after Marcus demanded yet another audit of my numbers. Richard looked uncomfortable. "Some people at headquarters feel your methods are unorthodox." "Unorthodox, but effective," I countered. "We are up 93%. That kind of growth makes other divisions look bad in comparison. Isn't that their problem? Shouldn't they improve instead of trying to tear us down?" Richard gave me a look that was part pity, part warning. "This company has certain ways of doing things, Eller, certain hierarchies. I didn't understand then. Thought it was just office politics. I didn't realize I was threatening an entire system built on mediocrity and excusing." As our success grew, so did the resistance. Leads that should have come to us mysteriously went elsewhere. Our IT requests went to the bottom of the queue. Expense reports that used to take days to process suddenly took weeks. But we kept winning anyway. My team was on fire. For the first time in years, they believed in themselves. We hit 150% of target by month 4. When the quarterly investor meeting was announced, Richard told me I'd be presenting our results. It was unprecedented. Usually only VPs presented to investors. "You built this," Richard said. "You should be the one to show what you've done." I spent weeks preparing. This wasn't just about me. It was about my team, about proving that we weren't the failure everyone thought, about showing that sometimes the approved approach isn't the right one. The night before the presentation, I received a calendar invite. Marcus had scheduled a pre-meeting alignment for 7:00 a.m., just an hour before the investors arrived. I should have seen the track. I walked into that room to find all 5 senior VPs waiting. Marcus, Claudia from marketing, Drew from product development, Sanjay from operations, and Rebecca from finance. "We've reviewed your presentation," Marcus began, sliding a USB drive across the table. "We've made some adjustments." I opened the file on my laptop. They'd completely rewritten my presentation. My 207% increase was now exceeding targets by a significant margin. All specific numbers were removed. All mention of my new methodology gone. "What is this?" I asked. "A more appropriate framing," Claudia said. "One that acknowledges the contributions of all divisions. But these aren't the real results. We've achieved something unprecedented here. The point Marcus cut in is showing measured, sustainable growth, not anomalies that create unrealistic expectations." "They are not anomalies," I argued. "They are the result of a completely new approach that's working." Sanjay leaned forward. "Eller, you need to understand something. When you show numbers like yours, it makes every other division look like they are failing. Maybe they need to change their approach too." Rebecca actually laughed. "You've been here, what, 5 months, and you think you know better than people who have built this company over decades. I know what's working for my team." "Your team," Marcus emphasized the word, "is part of a larger organization, an organization with established methods and protocols." Protocols that weren't working. I shot back. We were about to be shut down. Drew, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. "No one's denying you've had some success, but sustainability matters. Consistency matters. The methods you're using, they are not scalable across the organization. You haven't even tried them." I said. "We don't need to," Marcus said. "We know what works long term." I looked around the table, suddenly understanding this wasn't about my results being wrong. It was about my results being too right, about what would happen if investors started asking why every division couldn't perform like mine, about 5 VPs who might have to explain why they'd settled for mediocre when exceptional was possible. "I won't present false information," I said, closing my laptop. "You'll present what the company needs you to present," Marcus said, no longer bothering to hide his threat. "Or I'll personally make sure everyone knows how you manipulated these numbers." Manipulated. They are verified. Your own audits confirm them. Things get lost in interpretation. He shrugged. Metrics can be viewed different ways. I looked to Richard for support, but he was studying his shoes like they held the secrets of the universe. "So, those are my choices. Lie or be accused of lying. We prefer to think of it as being a team player." Claudia smiled. "Now, shall we head to the conference room? The investors are arriving." That's when I made a decision. I copied my original presentation onto my laptop, closed the edited version without saving, and walked out with my head high. You already know how that ended, with Marcus yanking my power cord, with 50 investors watching me stand humiliated as the senior team rescued the presentation with my carefully built methodology repackaged as ongoing strategic adjustments showing promising early indicators. I sat silently through the whole thing, watching my work being diluted, my team's achievements minimized, watching investors nod along to a sanitized version of what we'd accomplished. When it ended, I walked straight to the bathroom and threw up. That could have been my breaking point. The moment I quit, filed a complaint that would go nowhere, or just accepted that this was how things worked. Instead, it became the moment everything changed. I didn't sleep that night. Not awake, just sat on my balcony watching the city lights. Something cold and hard crystallizing inside me. By morning, I wasn't sad anymore. I was calculating. I called in sick, first time ever, and spent the day assembling everything. Every email confirming my results, every client testimonial, the before and after data showing exactly what my methodology had accomplished. The 4 separate audits Marcus himself had ordered that verified my numbers. Then I did something I should have done months earlier. I started making calls to people I trusted at other companies. "I need perspective," I told my former mentor from my last job. "Is what I'm experiencing normal?" She listened to the whole story without interrupting, then said something that shifted everything for me. "Eller, they are not afraid your approach doesn't work. They are afraid it does, because if you're right, what's their excuse for years of underperformance?" That afternoon, I received a company-wide email announcing that our division's promising pilot program would be integrated into standard company protocols under senior leadership oversight, corporate speak. "We're taking Eller's work and pretending it was ours all along." No mention of me, no acknowledgement of my team's efforts, just Marcus smiling in the attached photo, promising evolutionary improvements to our sales methodology. I forwarded the email to my personal account, adding it to my growing folder of evidence. The next morning, I walked into Richard's office without knocking. He jumped slightly, guilty eyes darting to his screen where he was updating his LinkedIn profile. "We need to talk," I said. "Eller, look, I know yesterday was difficult. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to make a proposal." I laid out my plan. I wanted to formally document my methodology, train the entire division properly, and present the full results at the next investor meeting. No distortions, no politics, just the truth. Richard kept glancing at his door like he expected Marcus to burst in. "It's not that simple." "It actually is," I countered. "Either the company wants real results, or it wants comfortable excuses. Which is it?" He sighed, the sound of a man who'd surrendered his backbone years ago. "I'll talk to Marcus." "No need," I said. "I've already requested a meeting with all 5 VPs for tomorrow morning. I just need to know, are you with me or are you with them?" The silence stretched between us. Finally, he said, "I have a mortgage, Ella. 3 kids in college. I nodded, understanding everything he wasn't saying. Then I'll do this myself. That night, an email from HR appeared in my inbox scheduling a performance review at the exact time I'd requested my meeting with the VPs. Classic silencing tactic. So I went nuclear at 7:00 a.m. The next morning, I walked into the executive floor with copies of my full unedited report for every board member, not just the 5 VPs. I'd spent all night breaking down exactly how my approach differed from company protocol with data showing why it worked better. I included testimonials from clients who'd specifically mentioned how refreshing our new approach was. The receptionist tried to stop me. "The board isn't expecting you," but I walked right past her. Sometimes confidence is all you need. I entered the boardroom where they were having their monthly breakfast meeting. 12 people looked up, forks pausing midair. "Miss Reeves," the CEO, David Harmon, said with mild surprise, "I don't believe you're on the agenda today." "A nod," I said, distributing my reports around the table. "But what I have to say can't wait." Marcus stood up. "Eller, this is completely inappropriate. You pulled my power cord in the middle of my presentation." I cut him off. "We clearly have different definitions of inappropriate." Someone choked on their coffee. The room went utterly silent. For the next 17 minutes, I timed it. I walked them through everything, the real numbers, the methodology, the systematic attempts to suppress and then co-opt my work. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get emotional. I just laid out facts with the precision of someone who knew they were right. "So I have a simple question," I concluded. "Does this company want actual innovation and growth or just the appearance of it?" Marcus was practically vibrating with rage. "This is absurd. She's completely distorting. Let me see those numbers again." The CEO interrupted, putting on his reading glasses. The others leaned into their copies, too. You could have heard a pin drop as they reviewed my data. Finally, David looked up. 207%, and these are verified by the company's own auditing process 4 separate times. He turned to Marcus. "Why wasn't I shown these actual figures?" Marcus shifted in his seat. "We felt it was more appropriate to present sustainable projections rather than anomalous." "Is 207% an anomaly if it's been consistent for 4 months?" I interrupted. "Is it an anomaly if it's spread across our entire division? Is it an anomaly if clients are specifically renewing contracts because of it?" Claudia tried to rescue him. "What Eller doesn't understand is the broader organizational context." "What I understand," I said, still eerily calm, "is that I turned around a failing division using methods this leadership team actively tried to suppress. And now you're planning to implement a watered-down version of my work without credit while sidelining me with a performance review." Several board members exchanged glances. This clearly wasn't the morning meeting they'd expected. David removed his glasses. "Miss Reeves, would you give us the room for a few minutes?" I nodded and walked out, legs somehow not betraying how badly they wanted to shake. I sat in the reception area ignoring Marcus's assistant, who was clearly texting him updates about where I was. 23 minutes later, the boardroom door opened. David beckoned me back in. The atmosphere had changed. Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes. Claudia was furiously writing notes. The other VPs looked like they'd been through a hurricane. "Miss Reeves," David began, "the board has some questions about your methodology." For the next 2 hours, I walked them through everything in detail. Not just what I'd done, but why it worked, how it could be scaled, where the resistance had come from. I held nothing back. When I finished, David nodded slowly. "I appreciate your candor and your courage in bringing this directly to us." He glanced meaningfully at Marcus. "It seems we have some internal communication issues to address." Marcus started to speak, but David held up his hand. "We'll discuss that separately." He turned back to me. "What would you need to implement this approach company-wide?" The question caught me off guard. I'd been prepared for dismissal, maybe even termination. Not this, but I'd thought about scaling my approach for weeks. Full autonomy to build a training program. Direct reporting line to you until it's implemented. And my team gets the recognition and compensation they deserve for being the test case. David considered this, then nodded. "Reasonable requests. Let's discuss specifics this afternoon. My office, 2 p.m. I walked out of that boardroom feeling 10 ft tall, but I wasn't naive. This wasn't over just entering a new phase. As I passed Marcus in the hallway, he grabbed my arm hard enough to leave fingerprints. "You have no idea what you've just done," he hissed. "No idea who you're dealing with." I looked down at his hand until he removed it. "Actually," I said quietly, "I think you're the one who doesn't know who he's dealing with." The next 48 hours were the most intense of my career. I barely left the building, working directly with David and two trusted board members to outline the company-wide implementation plan. Not the sanitized version Marcus had planned to roll out, but the real methodology with all its radical customer-centric approaches. Word spread fast. My team was ecstatic. They were finally getting recognition. Other divisions were a mix of curious and resentful. The 5 VPs were conspicuously absent from all planning meetings. On the second night, working late in the conference room, I received a text from Tom. "Check your email now." There it was, a company-wide announcement. Marcus had just been named Chief Innovation Officer with a mandate to continue the exciting new customer approach pioneered under his leadership. My hands actually shook with rage. He was making his move before our plan could be announced, claiming credit, positioning himself as the visionary. Classic corporate hijacking. I forwarded the email to David with just one line. "Is this the communication plan we discussed?" His reply came within minutes. "Absolutely not. My office, 7:00 a.m. tomorrow." I didn't wait until tomorrow. I went straight to the executive floor, half expecting to be stopped, but the security guard just nodded me through. Apparently, my stock had risen in the past 48 hours. I found David still in his office, phone pressed to his ear, looking furious. He gestured for me to sit while he finished his call. "Don't care what precedent it sets. Phil, this ends now." He hung up and pinched the bridge of his nose. "Marcus issued that announcement without authorization. He's trying to position himself as the creator of my methodology before we can implement the real plan." David nodded. "Marcus has always excelled at one thing: self-preservation." He leaned back in his chair. "I owe you an apology, Ella. I knew there were issues with how the senior team operated, but I didn't realize how systematic the suppression of new ideas had become." "It's not just ideas being suppressed," I said. "It's people. I'm beginning to see that." He tapped his desk thoughtfully. "The board and I have been discussing next steps since your presentation. We were planning to announce changes next week, but Marcus has forced our hand." He checked his watch. "It's late, but this can't wait until morning. I need to make some calls." By 11 p.m. that night, everything had changed again. A new email went out. This one from the CEO himself announcing a strategic reorganization effective immediately. Marcus was being transitioned to an advisory role, corporate speak for demoted. Claudia and Drew were having their divisions reorganized, and I was being named head of an entirely new division, the Customer Success Group, with authority to implement my methodology across the entire company. The email concluded with a line that made me smile through exhausted tears. "We will be hosting a special investor presentation next month to unveil this new approach and introduce the architect behind it." My phone exploded with messages, congratulations from my team, shocked reactions from colleagues in other divisions, and one particularly satisfying text from Richard. "You did it. I should have believed in you more." I went home at midnight, slept for 4 solid hours, and returned to a completely different company. People who'd never spoken to me were suddenly finding reasons to stop by my office, which was being moved to the executive floor. IT requests that had languished for months were miraculously resolved overnight. The next week was a blur of meetings, planning sessions, and onboarding for my expanded role. I insisted that my original team receive substantial bonuses and promotions, non-negotiable in my acceptance of the position. Then came the part that truly felt like justice. Marcus had to sit through a training session on my methodology led by me. Company policy required all senior staff to complete the training, even those in advisory roles. He sat in the back row, arms crossed, face locked in a rigid smile as I detailed the very approach he tried to suppress and then steal. During the break, He approached me at the coffee station. Impressive coup, he said, voice low. Enjoy it while it lasts. It's not a coup, Marcus, I replied. It's meritocracy. Results matter. Results. He scoffed. I've been here 12 years. Built relationships. You can't imagine. This little victory tour of yours is temporary. I stirred my coffee calmly. That's where you're wrong. See, the difference between us is that I actually care if the company succeeds. You only care if Marcus succeeds. His face flushed red, but people were watching. He knew it. With a tight nod, he walked away. The investor presentation the following month was everything the previous one should have been. 50 investors, the entire board, and every division head watched as I presented the real numbers, the real methodology, and the real results now expanded to 3 divisions with similar success. The standing ovation lasted nearly a minute. The Q&A session went 30 minutes over schedule because investors couldn't ask enough questions. And through it all, I made sure to highlight my original team, bringing Tom and others on stage to explain parts of the implementation they'd led. Afterwards, at the reception, I was approached by investors who'd witnessed my humiliation months earlier. We knew something was off that day. One older woman told me, champagne glass in hand, when they pulled that cord, never seen anything so blatant. Glad the truth came out. As the evening wound down, David pulled me aside. The board is impressed, Eller. Very impressed. They've authorized an expansion of your division. And he smiled. A seat at the leadership table. Vice President of Customer Success Group. We'll announce next week. I thought I'd feel pure triumph. Instead, I felt something more complex. Vindication mixed with responsibility. This wasn't just about proving Marcus and the others wrong. It was about creating a company where the next person with an innovative approach wouldn't have to fight the same battles. 2 months later, I passed Marcus in the hallway. He was carrying a box of personal items. The advisory role had apparently come to its natural conclusion. He didn't look at me, just kept walking toward the elevator. I didn't feel the satisfaction I'd expected, just a quiet certainty that the system had finally worked the way it should. In my new office, yes, with an actual door and window, I found a handwritten note from David. Innovation without politics, results without excuses. That's the company we're building now. Thank you for showing us the way. That note still sits framed on my desk, a reminder of what happens when you refuse to minimize your light just because it makes others uncomfortable with their shadows. Last week, one of our newer team members asked me how I'd advanced so quickly. I told her the truth. I didn't play the game, I changed it. The corporate world runs on unwritten rules designed to maintain the status quo, but sometimes those rules need to be broken for real progress to happen. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply refusing to hide how good you really are. So if you're watching this and someone's trying to dim your shine, whether it's at work, at school, or anywhere else, remember your results aren't the problem. Their insecurity is never downplay your success to make others comfortable with their mediocrity. Have you ever had someone try to take credit for your work or been told to tone it down because you were making others look bad? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. And if you're currently struggling with workplace sabotage, drop a comment with advice needed, and I'll share more specific strategies from my experience. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories about navigating the complicated worlds of career, relationships, and personal growth. Next week, I'll be talking about how to identify allies versus saboteurs in your workplace. Trust me, they are not always who you expect. Remember, in a world full of people waiting for permission to succeed, be the one who gives yourself permission first. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't getting even. It's getting ahead on your own terms. I invite you to subscribe to the Azad Revenge Stories channel, like this video, and support me further by hitting the hype button so the story in this video can be heard by many more people. Thanks to all.